Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of the Cartridge and Disc Podcast. This is your Gen X gamer here. Now, let me tell you, this is a case of the big guy bullying the little guy. That's right, Sony over here is bullying this little small developer making their crappy game. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, there was a clone on the Switch. You know, it's really a clone of The Last of Us. Right, it vanished because Sony struck it down. What game was that? It was called, I think, Last Hope, Dead Zone Survival. But here we're going to talk big picture, guys. Big picture. If you want to hear about the minutia, you can read about it everywhere. I think this will be one of the bigger stories, because it's pretty unusual for a big studio like Sony to go into another platform, right? Like Nintendo was quite litigious and take another game down. Now, if Nintendo vetted this, they probably think that, you know, it's a parody or it's different enough that it doesn't infringe on any intellectual property. But the vetting process can be different in different companies, and at the end, it's the publisher and the programmer who are responsible for the content of the game. And, you know, that's not legal advice if you're a developer out there, guys. I'm just some guy stuck in traffic making YouTube videos and, you know, just ranting in my car in traffic. So if you are a developer and listening to this, hey, you want to get legal advice, right? You want to get professional legal advice, but in this case, it might not even help you if you're a small developer. And let me tell you why. This is the big picture here. If you look at this game, from everything that I've seen, it's almost more like a parody. And if you're talking about intellectual property with a storyline, geez, there's 1,000 stories that I can think of, probably, if I sit here and think about it, that are similar to The Last of Us, that were made before The Last of Us. You know, but those people are not going to go sue a video game company. How many video games have you seen that closely mirror the plots of movies, for example? And in this case, we don't have the details yet. The developer hasn't come out and said what the claim is being made as far as, you know, Sony's intellectual property. I think the bigger point here is that Sony doesn't even have to be right. They can just claim to be right. They can just claim that it, you know, infringes on their properties, because you're not on equal footing here in the courts. A small developer like this that is selling this game for $2 or less, I believe, it's not even an expensive game, doesn't have the wherewithal to fight these things in court. Sony can sue them into oblivion. A lot of people these days, you know, depending on what you're talking about, can get sued into silence, basically. And that is where you have to settle the matter, because you don't have the wherewithal to afford legal representation that can go on for, you know, years and years and years. I mean, can you imagine one of these developers that makes maybe at best is making 10 grand on one of these games, and they have to spend, you know, $5,000 on a retainer and probably spend up to $30,000 a year to fight Sony? No, it's not. It's a lose-lose proposition. You're just going to be burning money, because the case is going to be never ending with Sony. It really is. So, you know, they can basically bully these smaller developers. Nintendo doesn't want any part of it, right? It's not their game. It's different if they were claiming that a Nintendo game was doing this, but it's a smaller developer. And I believe that this is going to be going on more and more and more, you know, as the gaming industry gets bigger, as AI comes in, and people are going to be looking to, you know, protect their intellectual properties at all costs. And they're going to be reviewing every single frame of your game, every single asset of your property, in order to see if you violated any copyright. So for this one, guys, I really like to sit back and see what it is that the claim is. You know, as far as I've seen, I haven't seen any assets. I mean, this game is pretty bad, guys. If you guys go look at it, it looks like a mobile game that was rushed. That's the impression that I got from watching the playthroughs from YouTubers. I mean, it's not a good game. And even on top of that, for Sony to go and strike it, it seems just pretty weird to me. I think there's more to this story. I like to see the details, and I want to see the claim specifically that Sony is making against this small developer. All right, guys, I hope I gave you something to think about. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps out, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.